Hi, Jerome. Here I'm going to focus on color. In monochromatic, it seems like your color is mainly magenta rather than violet that you point to. Also, there's some red magenta in there. To be an absolutely true monochromatic harmony, you want only tints, tones, shades in the saturated version of magenta. Any combination is okay. Now, analogous is a pretty easy harmony to manage. I noticed that you've got a couple of shades in there, a sort of olive green, which comes from yellow, and a dark brown. I'm just wondering about their placement and if you would like to place prominent or darker colors strategically. Now, looking at complementary, just about everything there is okay except that very bottom bar. That bottom bar isn't the blue you point to. It probably comes from a cyan blue. Looking at split complements, the one thing I see here is that you haven't chosen violet as the exact complement of the green you point to. Now, you have used that green, so if violet is its complement, you want to use the blue violet just below it and next to the true blue, and then the violet color adjacent to magenta. Hi Sharon, these all look pretty good in terms of colors, except the first one I noted before, that you've got a couple of slices of what look like cyan there in the bottom right corner, for example. That's your split complements one. And I pointed to Charles Birchfield. He uses a lot of zigzags in his paintings of landscapes. There are a lot of diagonal lines and shapes that create a sort of excitement that's not unlike what you're showing us here. You might enjoy his work and he might offer some inspiration. I've also mentioned Jacob Lawrence, and there's a chance that Stuart Davis might be of interest to you too, although it's not necessary to look to any of them. I hope that you might be able to better integrate the irregular portion of the design with the regular. Hi, Keely. Things look good here, except I'm looking for color harmony titles. Also, I'm wondering about that yellowish backdrop that you use in the bottom right tetrad example. Could you use a color like that to suggest a glow around the chandelier? Another thought, the bottom arms of the chandelier seem to be bulky. They look sort of like banana shapes or knife blades. What about making them more slender, and could you do that with a portion of a letter with type, I mean to say. So I think if you want to use type as image in Illustrator, there may be a break apart command, and in Photoshop you could flatten. If you need to get rid of the background in Photoshop, choose the multiply blend mode, and that should render any white pixels transparent. Hi John, you are using the colors you point to in tetrad. However, colors need to be exactly 6 steps apart in a tetrad harmony. Another thing to consider is the assignment is asking you to use tints, tones, and shades, even the saturated version which you have here, for variations on the hues you choose with each design. And of course there's the matter of making the design look interesting based on the color arrangement. I like this notion that the circles or balls toward the bottom are going inside some sort of box or chute. Now with analogous, you should be choosing colors that are directly neighboring one another. And in split complements, the task is to select a color and then choose its complement straight across the color wheel. And rather than using its complement, you use the colors on either side. So your harmony here is not a true split complement one because you haven't chosen the right colors to begin with. One more thought is that when you add a cyan backdrop, that's adding a fourth color. So you want to keep all colors the same. Now, the monochromatic one looks quite good. Hi, Zach. This is a difficult sort of design to work with here. The instance where it is cooperating with the harmony idea is an analogous, the neighboring colors. When I look at complementary, I don't see that very yellow-green in there. And there are a variety of other colors that come from the blending of the ones you point to. In this sort of design, at least at this phase, we should be able to click on any area and get one of the colors you point to on the color wheel. I would say that this design isn't complex enough for your final project. It might be that you like to use this for an aspect of the design, this sort of radial motif, but I would suggest that you go back and mine what you had in assignment 2 and see whether this might be combined with that or whether you'd like to overhaul the design entirely. Hi Paulina, this looks quite good. Now, one thing that's missing is the pointers on the color wheels. And I suggest you try using the pencil tool, which is available in either program and is pretty easy to use. In monochromatic, things look pretty good. In split complements, well, if you choose yellow, its complement is the straight blue, the true blue. And on either side, those blues are pretty similar to it. So you don't get an awful lot of variation. When I click around on your design here, I'm not getting the exact blues on either side of blue. So that's something to think about. With analogous, things look okay. One thing I note is that the centers of the flowers are gray, but that's a warm gray that comes from reds, and you may like to choose your gray from a blue color picker field. I know you're working hard to manage that color picker. Now, with complementary, it seems you want green and magenta, and you have the basic idea. However, you will want to choose all greens from a single color picker field and all magentas from one, too. That's to say, you can use the tint, tone, shade, or saturated version of the magenta, all from the very same field. I wanted to point out that I really like this effect in the bottom right here in complements, where you've got a green stroke around a green flower. That's kind of nice. Well, hi, Stephen. I like the way that the design changes when it's seen through the windows. Maybe you can play that up in your final version for assignment 1 in week 6. Now, you are leaving us high and dry. I don't know what harmonies you're trying to achieve, nor the colors that you're working with. Could you please resubmit this with color wheels and pointers, color harmony names? Thanks. This is affected by artifacts. You see the frost-like marks in the color areas. Something you want to avoid. I would suggest checking how you're saving for web. Save for web at high or very high. Hi, Risha. I've looked at this in depth elsewhere. I just want to mention for everybody's sake that there is a resolution issue. It seems to be affecting the complements one in particular. And from my experience, this sort of problem stems from working on a JPEG versus going back and working on the native file, which would be your PSD or your AI. This is the sort of resolution issue you will want to avoid. Travis, things look pretty good here. I'm going to take a look at Triad. There on the left, there is an extruded rectangular form. It's got cyan green shape on its end, which doesn't match the colors that you're pointing to. Also, directly below that, I'm getting a violet and magenta other than what you point to. Now, looking at complements, bottom center, there's a pink rectangle that seems to belong to a color that is a magenta red closer to magenta. Hi, Adam. Taking a look at split complements here, I see you have 2 oranges, an orange and a yellow orange. Now, to correct this, you should take any tint, tone, or shade from the orange you point to on the color wheel. Additionally, in Triad, you've got yellow, which isn't a color you point to. And things look okay in Tetrad. Notice the assignment's asking for variations on the hues you are pointing to. So here you've got mainly the saturated colors.